Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter what time zone you're in. Welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Welcome, welcome, Sip and Talkers. We are jumping into a topic today that's been bubbling for, half a decade now. But it feels like it's really at a boiling point. We're talking about the data defense battle over TikTok.
It's so crucial to understand this isn't just another story about a social media app. I mean, this has become a fight over something really fundamental.
Right.
Who controls what 170 million Americans see and, ultimately think?
Exactly. Our mission today for Sip and Talk is to unpack why a deal involving a private company, and let's remember, ByteDance is privately held, needs the green light from not one, but two global superpowers, the U.S. and China.
It is truly fascinating how a consumer app, something for dances and memes, became like the absolute epicenter of the U.S.-China tech war. It forces some really tough questions about digital sovereignty. Yeah. And I keep coming back to this one core question. Let's say we Americanize the platform. Think of the algorithm like a super secret, really amazing recipe.
Okay, I like that.
If you get a new chef, let's say Oracle, but the core ingredients, the code, came from the old kitchen in Beijing, is the final dish really going to taste different? And maybe more importantly, if you cut that link, does it just get, less good?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. And it's why we have to start by looking at the two huge government gatekeepers standing on either side of that kitchen door.
Both with completely different reasons for being there.
Right. So this is the key. This stock transaction is not business as usual. It's now being treated as a national security issue and a technology export issue.
So let's start with gatekeeper number one, the U.S. side. The main tool they're using is the CFIUS review.
The CFIUS, yeah. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. Their whole job is to review foreign investment in what they call critical U.S. industries.
And I guess an app with that many users and that much data is definitely critical infrastructure now.
Absolutely. The core fear, and we've seen this from both the Biden and Trump administrations, is basically data privacy and the risk of espionage. If ByteDance keeps any control, China's national security law could, in theory, compel the company to hand over U.S. user data.
But how real is that risk? I mean, if they were forced to hand over, say, the location data of some U.S. general, would that be an open process, or would it all happen in the shadows where we'd never know?
And that's the fear. U.S. regulators believe it would happen in the shadows.
Yeah.
The Chinese law allows the government to demand cooperation without telling anyone. And that leads to the second fear, which is maybe even bigger than data theft. It's the algorithmic threat.
Right.
The U.S. government is worried the algorithm itself could be weaponized for what some call cognitive warfare.
Cognitive warfare. That sounds intense. What does that actually mean?
Essentially, it's using the app's precision to subtly influence things, maybe amplify social divisions during an election or push certain narratives, all without the user having any idea they're being targeted.
Okay, so while the U.S. is trying to force a sale, China's not just sitting back. What's their side? Why are they the second gatekeeper here?
That's the China side, and they're using technology export controls. Back in 2020, China updated its list of restricted export technologies.
And let me guess, TikTok's algorithm is on it.
You got it. They specifically lifted personalized recommendation technology, that super addictive secret sauce, as a national treasure.
Wow. Calling it a national treasure tells you everything. They don't see it as just some corporate code. They see it as a strategic asset of the state.
It carries huge weight. It means Chinese regulators have to approve any transfer of that core technology. And that's the leverage point. It's why a clean sale is so difficult and why ByteDance is trying to keep that 20% stake. It maintains a technical link.
Okay, let's unpack this. It really is like a crazy, expensive international divorce. ByteDance wants to keep the kids, which is the algorithm. America wants full custody, meaning operational control. And Oracle is like the expensive nanny who gets paid a fortune just to watch the front door and make sure nobody's sneaking things out.
That's a perfect analogy. And it leads us right to the proposed solution, which is this really complex technical fix people are calling digital surgery.
Sounds painful.
It is. The key idea here is twofold. You isolate the infrastructure and you retrain the algorithm. The U.S. buyers claim they'll retrain it entirely inside the U.S.
What does retrain even mean in this context?
It means that while the base code might be from ByteDance, the new version of the algorithm will only learn from U.S. user data from now on. The idea is to sort of dilute the original programming over time.
And this all has to happen inside Oracle's cloud, totally separate from ByteDance's other systems.
Completely separate, physically and digitally isolated. This is the big step up from their last attempt. Project Texas.
Right, Project Texas, that was deemed not good enough. Why was that?
Because Project Texas mostly just moved the data storage to the U.S. It put a wall around the raw data, but the core brain, the algorithm itself, could still be updated and controlled by engineers in Beijing.
So the digital surgery is about handing over the controls to the brain. A U.S. board and Oracle will be watching every single code update to make sure there's no, manual intervention from overseas.
That's the plan. But it brings up a huge, risky question about the business itself.
Which is?
If you totally sever that technical link, if you cut the U.S. algorithm off from the massive global data flow that's constantly making the AI smarter, can U.S. TikTok stay that addictive?
That's the risk nobody wants to talk about. If the algorithm gets dumber, if it's slower on trends, or its recommendations are on, users won't care about national security. They'll just switch to Reels or Shorts.
Exactly. The national security solution could end up killing the product.
A huge risk.
Okay,
so let's shift from the app's mechanics to the fuel, the data itself. Why does this scare government so much?
It's not just about the amount of data. It's the breadth of collection mixed with the specific nature of China's laws.
Let's get specific. What are we talking about here, beyond just the videos I like?
A lot. We're talking about sensitive biometric information, your facial features, your voice print. In an age of deepfakes and AI, a library of that on 170 million people is powerful.
Very powerful.
And then there's the other stuff. Keystroke patterns, which some agencies see as a vulnerability for tracking passwords. Precise location data. Your contact lists. It allows for incredibly detailed mapping of social networks.
And when you combine that data collection with China's national security law, that's where the alarm bells really go off for regulators.
That's the core of it. We have to keep coming back to this point. The law requires private companies to cooperate with intelligence work and, crucially, to do it secretly. For U.S. regulators, that's a one-way, transparent data channel. They can look in, but we can't look out.
So this data isn't just for selling sneakers. At a state level, they're worried about 3 really serious uses. The first is creating individual dossiers.
Imagine building detailed psychological and behavioral profiles on, say, U.S. officials, military members, or even their families. If you know a vulnerability or a secret about an official's kid from their TikTok use, that becomes leverage. It's political blackmail fuel.
That's terrifying. And the second big fear is that cognitive warfare thing again.
Right. It's not censorship. It's the invisible scissor.
Yeah.
Subtly tweaking the algorithm to amplify division during an election. Or maybe quietly suppressing content that's unfavorable to Beijing, like about the South China Sea or Taiwan. It's more dangerous because it's invisible.
And the third one, which feels huge for the future, is AI training fuel.
The most strategic one, maybe. The real-time behavioral data from 170 million diverse U.S. users is the perfect top-tier data set for training massive AI models that predict human behavior. Whoever controls that data gets a huge lead in the global AI race.
So here's where it gets really interesting. This whole show isn't about protecting my lunch photo from being seen. It's about protecting who gets to decide what I wake up wanting to see tomorrow. This is a war for control of influence.
And that brings us to the core paradox of this whole conflict. It really exposes a deep logical contradiction between the two countries.
China is basically mocking the U.S. for being scared of an app.
While the U.S. is pointing right back at China's own completely closed-off internet, let's look at China's logic first, which is based on cyber sovereignty.
My house, my rules.
Pretty much. From their perspective, it's consistent. They ban platforms like Google and X to maintain what they call social harmony and regime stability. It's about information control.
And by doing that, they also help their own companies. It's digital mercantilism. Banning foreign tech allowed Baidu and Alibaba to grow in a protected market. All the data, all the money stayed in China.
Right. Now contrast that with the U.S., which has this logical conundrum. The U.S. traditionally champions free speech and free markets. So when the government tries to ban an app, it gets hit with lawsuits and accusations of hypocrisy.
But U.S. officials have a counter-argument for that, don't they? The reciprocity argument?
They do. They argue that since China has banned all major U.S. social media, the U.S. restricting TikTok isn't about fearing competition. It's about reciprocity. It's retaliation for not having a level playing field.
So at the end of the day, what this all comes down to is a complete breakdown of trust.
It's the collapse of trust assets between the two powers. Neither government trusts the other's legal or technical environment, and that forces them to step into what should be a private business deal.
Let's use a board game analogy. It's like 2 people playing Monopoly. One guy starts and says, I'm walling off this entire side of the board. You can't come here.
Okay.
The other guy plays for a bit, then realizes the fun guy is sneaking in his own dice. So he yells, fine, you can't play on my side of the board either. And now they're both just pointing at each other saying, see, he's the one who can't handle competition.
That is a perfect encapsulation of where we are.
So we've unpacked how this TikTok deal became the front line of the data and algorithm war. It's gone from a private deal to a massive state-level security issue.
And as always here on Sip&Talk, we want to be clear. We are not criticizing or discriminating against any country or any group of people. We're just presenting the objective facts for discussion and for your own critical thinking.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you to chew on. Since pretty much every major app, Meta, Google, you name it, is collecting huge amounts of our data, why do we have this specific extreme level of fear for TikTok? Is this just a rational geopolitical risk assessment based on Chinese law? Or is there maybe an element of, let's call it, digital ethnocentrism at play?
Something to mull over as you're scrolling tonight.
We encourage you to subscribe to the Sip&Talk podcast wherever you listen, and check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife, for fun memes and the latest travel vlogs.
We'll see you next time.